Good evening, students. It's my third class of the day. I'm beginning with this new series from now, which on the book review, which I have been telling you for a while now. I've been promoting it. Which on the book review, which I have been telling you for a while now. I've been promoting it. Right. So I think I can hear myself, booming voice as usual. So on that note, I can definitely begin with the class. So welcome everybody to Unacademy. Let me quickly run you through the features of Unacademy and then I will begin with today's class. Today is the first class on the book review series and I plan to do many more after this if they are successful. The idea is not to reveal the plot, but because usually I'll be doing non-fiction, so obviously it's more of passing on the content which I have learned and which could be useful for you guys, and also to promote the book, of course, in the sense not in terms of selling some product, but in terms of reading as a habit, which is always a great thing, and especially for budding managers like you guys who will be appearing for CAT and the other exams. That especially has pretty good literary kind of passages, so it's always good to really get into it. Now many will be attempting the exam this year, some will go for it next year, so that way you may plan. Right, so book review mein kya hoga? The idea will be to tell you what exactly are the main points in that book. Right, so today I'm going to start with a book called Homo Deus, which is written by an Israeli writer, Yuval Noah Harari. So that is something which I will be starting with today. But first things first, the priorities we are set. I need to tell you a little bit about Unacademy. So welcome everybody. We are the largest online learning platform in India, present across the different educational fields and also across geographical areas of India. This is myself, Aritro Dasgupta, and I have been teaching at Unacademy for the past couple of weeks now. So this is a brief about my profile. I'm an MBA in the area of forest management in the specific specialization of conservation and livelihood management. This I studied from the IIFM, which is in Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh. Since doing my MBA, I have worked for more than a decade in the areas of teaching, training, content writing, strategy consulting, and in executive recruitment. The last 5.5 years have been especially intense when it comes to the coaching industry, but overall, my experience has predominantly been in India. But I've also worked in the Middle East and been published in the US on a trade magazine based in New Orleans, Louisiana. As I said, last 5.5 years been extensively involved with the coaching industry, and so the toppers to several exams, national level papers like CAT, CLAT, DOJAT, etc., have been my students during this period. So I plan to continue on that success this year, no doubt. It'll be fueled by you guys. My success so far has been on the contact classes. I'm sure on online classes as well. Things will be pretty good from this year onwards. All depends on you guys. So what all you will get as part of our platform, let me just tell you. First of all, you receive daily live classes. You also get live tests and quizzes. So daily live classes are in the sense that you actually get an idea what kind of classes are going on. You also get live tests and quizzes because the fact is that as I was saying, this is our channel क्रैक मैनेजमेंट एग्जाम. तो इसमें मेरे सारे क्लासेस आपको मिल जाएंगे, जो भी पुराने क्लासेस है वो सब आपको मिल जाएगा. Right. We also have a lot of live tests and quizzes. So in fact, there are full length mocks which mimic the real exam. And जैसे आपको मालूम है इस साल का पेपर 3 घंटे की जगह 2 घंटे का होगा, तो उसी हिसाब से हमारा भी पेपर पैटर्न सेट है. और जो भी आपको स्कोर मिलेगा, परसेंटाइल मिलेगा, this will be as real as possible to the actual exam, because at any time at an academy there are thousands of students enrolled. So basically, you're competing against thousands of students all over the country and not just 30 students in your batch, which would be under usual circumstances. There are also quizzes that we can give you on the spot. So on the right hand side, if you see, there's a live chat window. तो इसको अगर आप क्लिक करेंगे, you will receive quite a bit of the, shall we say, you can ask me questions and I can, of course, also give you quizzes. There's a structured course content which has been set from the head office itself, which is in Bengaluru. And of course, you receive unlimited access to the classes once you have enrolled. I don't tire of saying that Unacademy is like the Netflix of education. And of course, you receive unlimited because once you are enrolled, you can go through n number of sessions. This is a list of some of our top educators, along with their qualifications, their experience, the followers, and also the watch minutes. Slightly older screenshot. Right now, things would be further updated, and I'm sure I am also going towards a positive mark. You can receive notifications for live classes as well. Live classes as well can be received. Meanwhile, there are batches for syllabus completion, so you can start with the courses that way. Because if you can see at the bottom, we have a couple of good. So there are two kinds of batches. One is for a single subject. You can form with one educator, or you can form with the whole batch, all the subjects included. That can be with number of educators. So that is on top. By the way, I'm also going to have my batches very soon because my plus classes will begin from this week itself. So that is in the planning phase right now. So be tuned in for that as well. See you all at that time. There's a schedule that works ideally for you. So even if you've missed a live class, fret no more. You will receive the access on a recorded basis. Language is something we don't see language as a barrier. Language should be an enabler. So we are actually present in 16 different languages for you guys to learn. And as I said, you can learn anytime, anywhere. All you need is your digital devices. And my subject, you don't have calculations to make. So it acts almost like a podcast. You plug in and you keep listening to it. Right? There are complex concepts, no doubt, but still, you can go through it. Right. So these are some of the advantages on Unacademy. As I told you, you may interact with us to get your doubts cleared. अभी क्लाइव के दौरान आप पूछ लो जो भी डाउट्स है अपने लाइव चैट विंडो पे डालिए. Also, there are live polls. Live polls is something which is possible on the chat window on YouTube, but it works even better on unacademy.com. So please follow my class on unacademy.com. That will be great fun for all of you. I also wanted to show you guys that we have live tests and quizzes, which I told you those are as per the real norms. So after every test, you receive a report and analysis. So where exactly do you stand and how exactly are you performing? All that is pretty much mentioned here. So you can understand what topics to prioritize, what areas you're already strong at, so you don't need too much of emphasis. वो सारा आप प्लान कर सकते हो. आपको डिटेल पीडीएफ्स भी प्रोवाइड होती है. आज की क्लास में वो रिव्यू है. सो इट्स मोस्टली आई एम गोना स्पीक नॉट मच ऑफ कंटेंट हियर, बट द पॉइंट इज दैट यू डू हैव समथिंग एज अ रेफरेंस. सो वो आपको पीडीएफ्स एंड लर्निंग मटेरियल मिलेगा. ये मेरा कोड है, इसको प्लीज आप यूज कीजिएगा जब भी आपको एनरोल करना हो. आपको 10% फ्लैट ऑफ मिलेगा, AD09. So once you use this, you receive a 10% off, as you can see. Right, please look at each of the blocks. Both the blocks mean the same, but I want you to see each of the columns basically. And you will notice that the longer term course you take, the better it is on a bang per buck basis. So go for either the 2-year course or minimum 1-year course. Anything less than that, you end up paying a lot more on a per month basis. So I trust you've all gone through this. Usko dekh lijiye. Let me just fetch the book in the meanwhile, and then we shall begin in earnest. तब तक ये देख लीजिए डिटेल में. I guess आप सभी ने इसको डिटेल में देख लिया. So now you know what to do. This is very important so that you can take a informed decision. Right. So I'm starting with the book review. This is the first book I'm doing, Homo Deus, which is by Yuval Noah Harari. This is the book. I guess everybody can see this, right? Okay. So this writer has actually written many other books as well. So just to give you the concept, मैं आपको थोड़ा शुरू से बताता हूँ. So I actually bought this book a couple of years back in 2017, and I still remember मैंने वहाँ से खरीदा था in one of the malls in Gurugram, from this bookstore called Quill and Canvas. For some reason or the other, ये कहीं stack में पड़ गया, and I was not able to read it at that time for whatever reason. I read many other books in between, but ये book somehow hidden हो गया, from, I mean, not on purpose but गलती से. Then in 2020, हमारे घर पे काफी वो हुआ, renovations, and that's when all of this came out, and this came out absolutely fresh, and I was actually looking for it. I was very happy to get it back, uh, and then I started reading it during the lockdown. That's the worst time I could have read this, believe me. During the lockdown, you needed entertainment distraction. It's a very entertaining book, make no mistake, but this book changed my life forever, and I am absolutely fearful of a lot of things now, and I think it's a good thing. It changed my life. When I'm saying fear, I'm probably exaggerating a bit, but there are certain things that you guys need to understand before you take this ahead. So Yuval Noah Harari has written a couple of other books as well. He's an Israeli historian. So okay, so I'll just read out to you his career, because that will help you understand what context this has come from. He's a PhD in history from the University of Oxford. He lectures at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel. Specializes in world history. He's also written a book called Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind. That was in 2014. It became an international phenomenon, published in 40 languages. I mean, translated, published and translated. It was also on the Sunday Times bestseller list for over 6 months on paperback, and was a New York Times top 10 bestseller. And received massive praise from publications such as Sunday Times, The Observer, from Barack Obama himself, from the Sunday Express, Metro, which I think is from France, also from Bill Gates, from the Financial Times, the Literary Review, and also one of the greatest writers of all time, whose book I am going to review very soon, that is Jared Diamond. There is also praise from the Guardian, from the New Statesman, and the Daily Telegraph. His second book is Homo Deus, and उसके नीचे क्या लिखा है? Brief History of Tomorrow. So he's actually talking about how things work in the next era. Before I come to what is going to happen in the future, let me first look into history. And this guy, by the way, Mr. Harari, was influenced a lot in India. And that's why there are several references to India throughout this book. And in fact, he did have an interaction with so one of his coaches is Shri S.N. Goenka, whom he has dedicated this book to. So the first chapter, which is basically an introduction, he talks of the new human agenda, and what all are the targets in as has been. So this is just an introduction, which is actually very long, covering about 80 pages. Then he goes into the prehistory of human this thing. So he starts off with what we call the Anthropocene era. That is when human beings started colonizing much of the world. And the first invention started up. We started what is now known as civilization, involving settled agriculture, settled living, and also, of course, domestication of animals, writing, that was of course crucial. So the first unit is about how Homo sapiens have conquered the world. Step by step, things are given. For example, um, different civilizations, the oldest civilizations on earth, like China, India, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. Also those in Europe, which started, those in Latin America. There's also something called poverty line, and how poverty line used to be immense back in the day. and over a period of time it has been reduced massively. In fact, today it's more likely that you die due to overconsumption rather than underconsumption. Although many hundreds of millions do die because of malnutrition and undernourishment, that is mainly because of poor distribution. But the amount of food we are actually producing on earth, as he says, and which is actually factually true, is enough to feed everybody on earth. uh, Mr. Harari has also spoken about this unique phenomenon where so there's this joke. I don't know how correct this is. Maybe apocryphal a story, but in the 18th century, there was this thing about how elitist the French government had become, the monarchy. So one of the queens, she had been told by one of the courtiers that, people are dying, they don't have bread to eat. And she actually said that let them have, they can have cake. Because, she was so elitist, so protected, she had no idea of poverty, that there could be people who can't afford bread. She merely thought that they don't have, that they just simply prefer cake or something. This story is might be apocryphal. It's not proven historically, but it's commonly accepted in folklore. Now it is actually true. Today, what's happening is, if you look at most of the developed countries, the richer people are having tofu or farm fresh meat or avocados, while the poorer people are having processed foods which are covered in extra salt and sugar. Those which are, shall we say, the packaged goods, processed goods, processed meats which are mass produced rather than farm fresh. Mm, Animals which are used for meat which have probably never seen sunlight, right? So what it has happened now is that there are many people who are not really. If I look at the American example now, there are more people who are likely to die out of um, obesity rather than undernourishment. In fact, in US, the richer people tend to be thinner, they tend to be fitter, while the poorer people, there is greater amount of fat among them, right? Obesity is greater among the poorer people, and there is often this ethnic sense there regarding, for example, black people or Afro Americans. The concepts of obesity are much greater among them than it is among the whites or the Caucasians. Right. The next chapter is about the human spark and how humans continued colonizing. Then there is thing about the Homo sapiens gives meaning to the world. Now, what exactly are the giving meaning to the world? So, it all started initially. Human beings were interested into the daily lives, and if you also look at ancient religion, it was pretty much rudimentary. Man was worshipping things which were either very useful to them or things that they were afraid of. So most of the natural elements they started worshipping because they were both afraid and they were useful. They also started worshipping animals like tigers or other big cats which were dangerous to them, and of course domestic animals which were obviously very useful to them. But after a while, after a couple of maybe a few millennium of civilization, we started having, shall we say, the organized religion. So there is this chapter called the Storytellers, where Yuval Noah Harari talks about the birth of all the religions. Hinduism, of course, among the oldest of the extant religions. Also, you have Buddhism and Judaism, which were also ancient religions. And after a while, we had Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, and several others which did emerge and which became major religions. The following chapter, which is chapter number 5, is about the odd couple. Now, what exactly is an odd couple here? Let me just explain to you. All right, so here the term odd couple actually refers to the human animal relation and how animals were not initially, obviously, we spent hundreds of thousands of years on earth fearful of animals and actually staying away from all other animals. Then from around 20,000 years back, we started slow domestication of animals. The first animal which is domesticated and which is widely accepted is obviously the dog. Now, that happened pretty naturally because dogs, or let's say an ancestor of the dogs and the wolf, they used to follow human settlements. There was a lot of wastage, and that sort of helped them. And humans also started following there because these dogs or wolves, they were very much alert to any predators, big predators. It would help us clean our garbage, and they would also help us warn us against all kinds of other predators. So over a period of time, this led to mutual trust between man and the now evolved dog. So dogs and wolves, they both originate from some sort of an ancient ancestor. Right. Then, of course, by around 10,000 BC, or say roughly 12 to 15,000 years before right now, we started having all other kinds of animals. Not all at one go. Some happened earlier, some later. Cows and buffaloes, you had sheep and goats, you had camels, pigs, llamas and alpacas in South America. Horses, of course, horses were a massive game changer because now humans could travel many, many miles. Cats were never domestic in that sense. Cats are more of pets used for one purpose, which is elimination of rodents. Then we had what is called the modern covenant, where again he delves deeper into conventional religion. There is also a very interesting point that Yuval Noah Harari has mentioned. Let's just call him YNH because I'm constantly taking out such a big name. So, very interesting concept that YNH says. The general understanding is that over a period of human civilization, we've actually grown, we've progressed. But he actually debunks this theory by stating that maybe ancient man was not unhappier than, was probably unhappy compared to prehistoric man. So he's actually giving us a case study. So he's giving us a case study that imagine there was a situation where you as an individual need to go on a tour circuit. Like there's some innovative travel and tourism company, some tour operator. They give you two packages. One is prehistoric man package. The other is ancient or medieval man package. In the former, you are sent out in the wild as a hunter gatherer. Of course, hunting might be a little difficult even on a simulated case, but you need to gather berries. Some of those berries could be harmful to your health, but some of them may not be. There is no assured supply of food, but you are in nature, you are in the wild. I know it sounds very romantic, may not in reality be as cool, but for a day or two, it may not be a very bad deal. Instead, look at the second example. Maybe I'm leading you towards something you can disagree with me or YNH. I'm actually just reiterating what he says. Mm, so YNH says that the second package you need to work daily for 10 to 12 hours for mere pittance of bread. Why? Because that you are building a temple or a pyramid maybe somewhere in Egypt, working out in the hot, or you are working on sugarcane fields whole day slaving around. Slavery was a concept. So he says that the ancient world or even the medieval world was actually very bad, and then later, and also it led to a lot of pollution. He also talks about the modern slums in Manchester, now a very glamorous city, home to two of the great football clubs on earth. Mm, Only one of them is really great. The other is a newbie. But anyway, that's a separate concept. Manchester was actually the birthplace in many ways of the Industrial Revolution. So initial years, there was a lot of pollution, stench. Drains were not adequate, right? So he's actually compared these two situations, and he says that maybe we haven't always progressed, but he does say that in the last 150 years, especially the last 100 years, modern science has moved on so quick. The number of diseases we've eliminated is far more than we did in the first 5,000 odd years of human civilization. And this, of course, he credits to scientific thinking of the last 150 years. He also says that in the 20th century, the major focus of doctors was humanity, away from religion. All these years, the religion dominated, but in the last 100 years, it is the fellow human who became most important. So while somebody could say there was population explosion because of that. World population increased from barely a billion about 120 years back. Now we are more than 7 billion, touching 8 billion, saddled with massive population. So that is one side of the picture. But I mean, the doctors and the scientists did their job. They have ensured diseases have got eliminated. Food production has increased, and fewer people are dying due to traditional diseases. Although new diseases are coming up, no doubt. I can see somebody else has joined. Whoever that is, please say hello. Will be great to interact. But do write a hello, whoever that is. Is it Priyanka by any chance? Okay, so that is actually covered all this thing in what is called the humanist revolution, which is the last chapter of the second part, which is Homo sapiens gives meaning to the world. We are Homo sapiens. I hope you understand, intelligent man. The third part, that is the most dangerous, the one which totally blew my head away, that is Homo sapiens loses control. So YNH states that the first level we conquered the world, second we gave meaning to the world, we started attributing meaning to everything, to the sun, to the moon, to animals. They were all ultimately there to serve us. I mean, a very good example is if you look at ancient religions, they all gave a lot of importance to wild animals. But the ones which emerged, the organized religions such as Christianity and Islam, they tended to look down upon animals because by now we had conquered them. They were below us. Serpent, for example, the snakes seen in a very bad light in the Bible. But in ancient religions, the most ancient of religions like Hinduism, snakes are revered. So that is how our focus shifted away from loving nature to fighting it and conquering it. But the third level, we have lost control. Why? The world is now controlled by this device in front of me, and this device, the mobile phone, the computer. This is literally controlling us. Think over a while. Everything that is free on earth. Right. I still don't have a message from whoever is watching. Anyway, now it is data that is controlling us. The amount of data which is now all over the internet is so much that there is complete power. And that is why the word Homo Deus. Who is Deus? Deus is actually the Greek word for God. So from being simple humans to be Homo sapiens, but now we are looking at the next phase where in the next 100 years, some humans will want to do something which is immortal. Till now, we have only prolonged, we haven't been able to prolong life as such. So even back in the day, there were rare examples of people living up to 1780 or even later. Now we've simply increased that number, but we have still not crossed certain ages. But the new technologies, the new biological devices which are coming up, they the main aim is now to remain immortal. And he's also saying that what is going to happen is the present automation and artificial intelligence, it will only render a few people useful and the vast majority is useless. While earlier you needed 100 programmers on the computer, now only two or three might suffice. The rest might not have something to do. And there could be vast amount of unemployment, job losses, which is something we've been fearful for a really long time. But I was always under the impression that we will find a solution. One side of the picture, so everything he says is not, I mean, obviously it's not that आपको हर एक चीज विश्वास करना है, but I would say read this once. It will change your life forever. There is also this thing which talks about the fact that in the past, a lot of the gains were for fellow humans, but now it is only for some. Now, the counter argument is that automation has always existed, right? Since the time we started with agriculture and animals would pull our plows. That is also automation in a way. Otherwise, many more humans would have to pull the plow, making it slower, but more people would be engaged. Then animals started pulling the plow. That was replaced hundreds, thousands of years later by the steam engine, which was further followed by automation in on the farms. Uh, but we have responded. We human beings have never lost to machines. We have used machines for our benefits. Steam engine ho ya computers ho ya automobiles ho, they have increased the number of jobs. So the idea is that artificial intelligence will merely add this thing and will require more and more people. Rather, maybe some jobs which are routine and mundane, they might be replaced by robots, but a lot of the creative jobs, such as writing, such as teaching, such as writing poetry, maybe doing something creative, that is something which will not be affected. However, he also talks about certain one of the reasons why he feels that that is not going to be the case and we will as a breed lose out. He does not wish that. Please, let's not go down that route. He's just telling us some of the problems that are happening. He also says that one of the reasons humans will lose out is because each of us is specialized in one thing, and there is one particular thing that we are expected to do. Now, for example, horses on farms were much better at playing with children. They were much better at galloping. They were much better at, shall we say, moving the crops from one place to another. But ultimately, their purpose was plowing the land. So, for plowing the land, machines are better, and horses went out of the picture. आप समझ रहे हो मेरी बात. So while a horse might be superior to a farm machine on many different things, it has emotion. That is not something which machines can totally. That is not relevant here, because the only reason of a horse was bought for a farm was this thing. क्या कहते हैं उसको? Was plowing. That's it. YNH also delves into some of the political debates that we often have, liberalism versus conservatism, for example. And he says this is of no need, no use now in the next decade. He says dataism will become the new religion, and dataists will fight both liberals and conservatives on the one side. So, if I look at the history of these right wing and left wing, the world for a long time, because we had very less of science and there were lots of things that were unexplained, we had blind faith on religion, on conservatism. Then there was a time when when we started inventing new things, discovering the truth behind a lot of it, and over a period of time we started believing in man or human being as an individual entity, and that's when liberalism came up. However, now what has happened is we've also always believed, whether it is conservatives or liberals, they've always believed in the human soul. Maybe due to other reasons, conservatives believed in the human soul being in the image of the God, while liberals believed in the individual creativity of all of us. Biologists, however, now biologists have been able to decipher the human DNA. They have not found anything about the human soul. All this while, what was it? I mean, the fact that I am good at general awareness, somebody else is good at maths, we believe that was the individuality of Aritro Dasgupta. But what biologists have found, and in fact why NH says, do not blame data guys or engineers for your job losses, blame the biologists if you have to, because what the biologists have discovered is there is nothing called a human soul per se, but instead it is algorithms, that we are also algorithms. Every structure, every animal on earth is an algorithm. The reason why I fall in love with a certain girl or a certain man or animals interlope with each other, that is because of chemicals in their bodies. Why I like GK, somebody else is good with numbers, a third person is good with public speaking, a fourth is good at I don't know, at weaving. It is only because of certain algorithms in our mind which tell us to do something. There is nothing called a separate human soul in us, and that is where computers can do everything that you and I can do. He even cites that music was created sometime back by an app. हाँ कहाँ पे थे या सो an app has been was made उसमें से somebody even created classical music and there was a blind test done on some experts and most of them preferred the music made out of the app automatically by a robo than all the other creative geniuses have ever done, right? So we actually have a time bomb in the laboratory and the data that is there present in the world. So there's a requirement for a great decoupling from all of this right now. And he says that the ocean of consciousness, none of that exists. The new religion is data. So data is say that all of us human beings together, we are merely the creation of a new and ever more efficient data processing system called the Internet of Things. All this while, we were all merely a set of data. So information wants to be free now. In fact, just like capitalism stresses on the freedom of wealth and capital, similarly, data is believed that all kind of data should be open to everybody. There have been cases as well for one way or the other. So indeed, tough times. I didn't want to end the class on a somber note. I know some of these readings are probably extreme. A lot of people may not believe it, but those who are adherents of this book, it's a seminal book. They have actually said that because of the coronavirus pandemic and the fact that we have been at home for so long, the power of the internet has increased further. And that is something which all of you need to think over it. Not outright reject the book, at the same time, not be fearful of this. Let us take things ahead this way. But please, I would request all of you to read this book once. A short class, this one. I don't want to take you too long. Next time, I'm going to do this book by Jared Diamond. I will also be doing Freakonomics. I think two books at one stage will be better. Otherwise, I enjoy it. Do let me know whatever are your comments on the session, but more so, tell me about the book. You read it. I want somebody to prove this book wrong. You know, because I have been fearful for the last 5 6 months since I read this. Right. Thank you so much. I think I can. I'll keep the session open for a few minutes in case anybody wants to give some of your views. So it's open for some time. Right. I think I can wrap up the session now. Uh, okay, I'll hold it for some more time. This is my code, AD09. Please use it whenever you wish to enroll. Do like, share, and subscribe to my session.